Hello and welcome to Cookery with Mason Storm. On today's episode we're going to be assembling a Poppin' Cookin' Tanoshii ramen set. And it says on the top of the package, so cute and so fun. I've seen videos of people assembling these. I wanted to see how difficult it actually is because everybody makes this stuff look really easy. And I've put one of these together before and I didn't think it was that easy, so here's a real-world interpretation of the assembly of a Tanoshii ramen. So once we get through the plastic packaging, we're left with a whole bunch of little packets as well as our little dish of assembly. I'm just going to lay stuff out here so it's a little bit neater. So we have our different packages for all the different ingredients and the different toppings. We have a nice fork and a toothpick. And that little cup thing there, that's going to be used for making the pudding. And the bag, we use that for making the noodles later on. So it's sure has a lot of things going on here. It's a very complicated set. And of course, as you would expect, the instructions are rather lacking. I'm just glad that they're in English because that's an easier language to understand for me anyway. And once we have our little package thing split up, I'm going to start making the pudding. So here's our little thimble-sized vessel for the pudding, and we're just going to fill it up halfway with water. A very, very small amount of water into there. Perfect. And then we're going to go digging through our little packets, see if we can find the right one, and here it is. This is the mango pudding packet. So we'll use our scissors and just cut the top of that off. And then we'll proceed to dump the powder into the pudding bowl. And this is probably one of the easiest puddings I've ever made, which is pretty good. And it's also the easiest thing of this whole set to make. And once we got that in there, we'll use the little fork here and we'll start to stir it up. Careful not to be too aggressive, as it's very easy to spill. But with a little time and effort, it will combine nice and easily, and we'll have our lovely mango pudding. And then we can set that aside. What's next in our instruction is to make the ramen topping. So this little dish here, you can't really see it, but it has a star in the bottom and it's got a fill line. So we're simply going to fill the water up to the line, and then we're going to take our blue packet here, which is the one that has the dough on it, and we're going to take the scissors and cut the top of that off there and pour it in and attempt to mix it. Now this one here, this is where it all started to go wrong. I guess I never said that before, but this really didn't go very well. And I had two sets of this, and this is the better of the two. So that just, I don't know, maybe I'm completely incompetent, or this stuff is more difficult than it looks. Because right here when I'm mixing it, it's like, it's not mixing, it's just kind of sloshing around and just kind of bunching up. But this stuff here, we're supposed to be able to have this as like a dough, and this is supposed to make the egg and the radish. It's supposed to be pressed in later, but it didn't mix very well, so I'll try my best and just keep kind of mixing with it, but it definitely didn't mix very well. This thing here, this is our little mold for our egg and our radish, so we need to take a little bit of this dough and then press it into the mold. The problem that I had was it didn't really specify the exact amount to press into it, and it's like too sticky that it sticks to my finger more than like the mold, which I guess you don't want it to stick to the mold, but it didn't really make for an easy transfer. So yeah, not really sure what was going on there, but it didn't turn out quite the way it was supposed to. And so what I decided to do was I just pressed it in really big, and then I used a knife to kind of cut around the outside of the shape. I know you can't really see it here, but it doesn't look very good regardless of how close you are to it or not, because it's so flaky that you touch it and it kind of crumbles, but it doesn't really hold its shape. So not entirely sure what was going on there. And then we're supposed to take the rest of this dough, we're supposed to divide it into 4 pieces, and then you're supposed to get 2 little wraps out of it and 2 different dumplings, but I was not able to exactly pull that off. So first I thought I would just kind of divide it into 4 pieces and then press it to stretch it out nice and flat. and got it kind of flat, but it stuck to the cutting board I used here, so I wasn't able to separate it, so it was effectively useless then. And that was rather unfortunate. This didn't go very well, so I decided to kind of abandon that process after I realized that I wouldn't be able to separate the dough into 4 pieces and have them round and be kind of the right size. So I abandoned that, and I decided to make just 2 of the little dumplings and then kind of call that a day. So the one other piece in the plastic we have here is this kind of folding pattern. It's kind of similar to the same tool that you would use to make ravioli, like a ravioli mold, but this is for the small dumplings here with this candy set. So I'm just kind of combining the dough to make sure I have enough, and then you're supposed to put the sprinkles or the filling inside of them. I forget the exact wording that they say on the box, but so we just kind of pour those in the middle, then we fold it closed, and it kind of holds its shape. And because I got so much extra dough in there because I didn't make the wraps, it went quite a bit better. So once I had them kind of folded up, I just kind of broke off the excess and looked passable. That's probably about the best I can say, is it looked passable. It was quite tricky, quite difficult. Probably one of the most difficult foods I've ever really assembled. I forget what the other one I had. I think it was like a pizza or something, and that was a lot easier because you just kind of had the pizza and you put stuff on it, and it was kind of fabulous. But this is pretty tricky. It's easier to make real ravioli than it is to make the dumplings in this, because this is just, I don't know, it's hard mode. I'm just setting everything kind of aside. Although the good news is we're mostly there now. Okay, time to make our ramen. So we got our round dish out. We fill it with water to the fill line. Get out our little pouch there that consists of ramen powder. And we pour it in, and then we mix it up. The thing that's interesting about this is that this stuff actually tasted like root beer. At least something like root beer. I'm not entirely sure. It's got a lot of flavor though. It was interesting. And we'll just kind of set that aside. Now we can move on to making our noodles. So we get our rectangular one out again, and our nice yellow packet with our noodles, and we'll just fill it up in there. And then we can get out our fork and give it a little bit of a stirring. That way we have it nice and combined, because we want to have nice and combined noodles for our ramen set. This part was actually one of the easier things. The dumplings, they were awful, but the actual ramen itself was quite straightforward and easy enough to make. I really don't know what they were doing there. So we're just going to dump that sludge of noodles into this bag here. And the way this is going to work is similar to using a pastry bag, in that we're going to cinch up the top, just kind of turn it nice, and then we're going to use scissors and we're going to cut the corner off like so. Yep. And then just kind of dribble it into the ramen, and it kind of holds its shape even after it's poured in, so it's kind of like noodles inside of the ramen, which is kind of exciting and fantastic. Pretty cool stuff. Of course, then we need to add in our egg and our radish. Then it's time to plate this thing up. So I got myself a nice plate, carefully lift that up onto there, and then the pudding. Now we're supposed to be able to just kind of tip it over, and the pudding's supposed to just kind of fall out, and I tried to make it fall out for a few minutes and it really wasn't going to happen, so I ended up putting it in the freezer for a few minutes before I did my spinning camera thing with the Lazy Susan, and that's why the radish and the egg look a little bit waterlogged now, is because 5 minutes went by. But the freezer did a good job of solidifying the pudding so that it would actually come out fairly easily. So that's always good. Well, that was kind of fun, I guess. I do recommend that everybody give this a whirl, see if it's kind of your thing, because, you know, for 20 minutes and $5, it's not really the worst way to entertain yourself, especially if you have youthful individuals around that might find it a little bit more fascinating than I did. But Either way, that's it for now, so stay awesome.